Hi everybody, I hope you all are doing well. Today I'm going to be talking about the books that I plan to reread in 2018. So fun fact about me, I've never ever reread a book before. As someone whose entire book life has been spent on the internet, I am very much infatuated with all of the books that everybody is talking about now, that's coming out now, or all of the books that came out in the past that I'm told that I should read. But I never really consider rereading books. I would read a book, like it, not like it, kinda like it, put it down, and that's it, never go back to it. But I feel like there's a lot of value in rereading books because you get to go back, you get to see some of the things that you like in a different perspective sometimes, you might change your opinions, you might pick up on things that you missed the first time, and I definitely want to have that experience. So I have a pile of 6 books here that I want to reread in 2018. 3 of them are books that I definitely plan to reread. If there are any 3 books that I'm reading in 2018, those are the 3 books. And then I have 3 books that I would ideally like to get to, but I'm not 100% sure if I will. So starting off with the priority books, I first have Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. So as most of y'all know, this is an essay collection about feminism, pop culture, politics, and media. I've said that a million times on this channel already. As I've said before, this is a very pivotal book for me because it's a book where I discovered feminism, I discovered feminist literature, and I really kind of solidified my identity as someone who is feminist or pro-feminist. However, ever since then, I started my degree and I also started doing a minor in gender and development studies, and I think after my degree next year when I graduate, I want to go back into this book and see if my opinions have changed and see if I view things differently from a more polished feminist perspective, if that makes sense. So I'm really looking forward to my reread of this. It's a very special book for me and I can't wait to go back into it and experience these essays for a second time. The next book is a book that I talk about consistently on this channel and I have no regret about that whatsoever, and that is A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, which, as most of y'all know, is a book that I consider to be my favorite book of all time. This is the story of a woman called Ruth who finds the diary of a girl called Now, and you're reading the diary of this girl, but you're also reading the story of the woman who's reading this diary, and it is absolutely wonderful. There are so much layers and themes and messages and ideas explored in this book. It is a book that is not one thing only. It doesn't have one purpose. It has multiple purposes that overlap and intersect, and I've never ever been able to coherently summarize this book or talk about it or review it for y'all, and I feel like I need to do it that justice, so I want to go back into it and have a more analytical experience with it, tab off things, try to read it a bit more deeply than I did the first time, and who knows, maybe I will finally do the review that it deserves. Then we have The Diviners by Libba Bray. So this one is a book that I read all the way back in 2014. It was my favorite book of that year, and it was a very special year for me because that was the first year I really started reading for fun. The Diviners is the first in a 4-part paranormal young adult series set in New York in the 1920s. Sounds kind of like it's out of my comfort zone, which it is, but Libba Bray is an author who I love and trust with their life, so I definitely look forward to going back into this book. And considering it's the only book that I read in this series so far, I really need to reread it so that I can continue on with the rest of it. But yes, as I said, one of my favorite books of all time, so I definitely look forward to going in and re-experiencing all of the things I liked about it the first time. So now we're going to talk about the books that I'm not 100% sure that I want to reread next year, but I hopefully will. Coincidentally, all of these are 2017 releases, so it's kind of strange for me that I want to reread books that I've only recently read, but hey. First is Saints and Misfits by S.K. Ali. So this is a YA contemporary book about a Muslim American girl called Jana Yusuf who is assaulted by a very prominent and well-respected member of her community. This guy who assaults her is her age, and he, taunts her throughout the rest of the book, and she decides to keep it a secret. And the story is about how she comes to find her voice and how she stands up for herself, and it's a wonderful, wonderful story. This was a very special book for me because its own voice is Muslim fiction, and I loved every single aspect of it. I love the characters, I love the story. It could have been done better, I do admit that all the time when I talk about it, but I love everything that this book is about, and rereading it for me is something that I very much look forward to. Then I have That Thing We Call a Heart by Sheba Karim. This is also Own Voices YA Muslim fiction. It's about a girl called Shabnam who is a Pakistani American, and she is very much struggling with connecting to her heritage and her culture and her more modern Western life as an American. I liked this book. It was a pretty standard book. I had issues with it, but overall the book takes a turn. Let's put it like that, and it kind of disturbed me. Now that you'll probably read this book and don't know what the hell I'm talking about, I kind of read a bit too deep into this, and although I kind of expected what was going to happen, there was a lot of foreshadowing, so I want to go back and kind of internalize that a lot more, because I feel like the author scratched the surface of a lot of very interesting conversations. It's difficult to talk about because I would have to spoil it for you, so I don't want to say, but I'll definitely talk about this a lot more in my next wrap-up, whenever the hell that gets up. But I definitely look forward to rereading this if I have the time to as well. And the final book I would like to reread in 2018 is a book that I'm not 100% sure that I'll be able to do, but I really do, and that's The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Now, the movie is coming out next year, and if it comes out earlier in the year, I probably won't be able to reread this before. If it comes out later, maybe I will, hopefully. And even if it does come out earlier, I could always reread it later on in the year, but at the same time, I kind of don't. I want to reread it before the movie, but maybe that might ruin the movie for me because, you know, you're constantly comparing the book to the movie. But it's a book that I loved. It's one of my favorite books for the year. As most of y'all know, this is the story of a girl called Star who witnesses the murder of her best friend Khalil by a police officer. And like Saints and Misfits, she has to find her voice and stand up for what's right and stand up for what she believes in. I love this story with every fiber of my being, and I really hope that I could get to reread it in 2018. As you can tell, I took a lot out of it the first time, so maybe I will take out more the second time. And there you have it. Those are all of the books that I will be hopefully rereading in 2018. Apologies if I said 2017 instead of 2018 at any point in this video, but you know, that happens. Obviously, in the comments down below, if you've read any of these books, I'd like to hear your thoughts on them. That in mind, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day, and until next time, inshallah, keep reading.